What types of devices need IP addresses within our network? Well, any device we want to allow to communicate within the network or outside the network needs an IP address. So whether it's a client or a phone or a printer or a switch, it needs an IP address for management access, or our router, which is going to require an IP address on every single interface, so that way there it has the ability to communicate with those devices in the local area networks that are attached to those router interfaces. Because that router will be the default gateway, the exit point for those clients that are located in the local area networks. And then when you have two routers connected together, whether it's via a point-to-point link or across a shared Ethernet segment, whatever it may be, we need appropriate addressing between those routers as well, or else they're not going to be in the same subnet. So how can we verify the IP addressing on router interfaces? Well, there's a few different commands we can utilize. Starting off with show IP interface. In this case, we're looking at the interface addressing for fast Ethernet 0/0. We can also verify here whether it's up, down, down, or administratively down the interface. But here the IP address is 10.1.1.1/24. And if we go out to our live environment, we'll take a look at DSW1, because DSW1 is a multi-layer switch. It's the default gateway for VLAN 10. So let's examine the output of show IP interface for VLAN 10. So although this is a virtual interface, an SVI, it still has an IP address. In this case, the SVI is up, and the internet address, or the IP address, is 10.1.1.1/26. What about IPv6? Well, with IPv6, same command, we just swap out the IP for IPv6 now. And when we're looking at the IPv6 information, we can verify whether the interface is up, or up, down, or down, or administratively down, just like with IPv4, because that's layer 1 and layer 2 information. But the layer 3 information, as we've seen, comes after that. Here we can see that IPv6 is enabled on the interface, and IPv6 is enabled as soon as you give it a global unicast address, or you type in the IPv6 enable command. You can verify here the link local address. Those are the addresses that start with FE80 for link local communication. And then our global IPv6 unicast addresses are listed as well. These are the addresses that would have been purchased from your internet service provider or your regional registry, and you would have deployed those IPv6 addresses to the devices within your organization, giving you global internet connectivity. So just like before, on our switched virtual interface, we can verify our IPv6 address on that switched virtual interface with the show IPv6 interface VLAN 10 command in this case. And if we scroll back up to the top, we'll see the link local address that was generated for this particular interface and the global unicast address that we assigned to it. So it's 2001 DB8:1 that has been assigned to DSW1 interface VLAN 10 in this particular example. When we look at our other options we have show IP interface brief, and I really like show IP interface brief for quick verifications of the status of the interface. So is it up or down? Is the protocol up or down? In addition to what the IP address is. But I want you to pay very close attention to this address. What is missing? That's really, really important. I wish it was here, but it's not. So what is missing? Yeah, the subnet mask. They don't list the subnet mask that goes along with this IP address, which is really, really important when you're trying to determine if that interface was truly 100% addressed correctly. Why? Well, if I want to determine if two devices are in the same subnet, or if two devices are not in the same subnet, we need that subnet mask to identify the interface portion. So if I really need to double check the subnet mask, then we have to go look at show IP interface. Or you could look at the running config and see what subnet mask was typed in. But for just quick verification of an address and the status of an interface, you go to show IP interface brief. And the same thing is true with show IPv6 interface brief. You're going to see whether the interface is up, down, or administratively down. You'll see the addresses, the link local address, and the global addresses that are assigned. But again, you don't see the prefix, so you don't know whether this is a /64 for the global unicast address or whether it is a completely different prefix that's assigned. So you want to see that prefix, you're going to have to look at show IPv6 interface and examine that specific interface, or examine the output of the running config. And one of the last commands that we need to be familiar with for our router interfaces is the show interfaces command. So all we did was remove IP or IPv6. And what are we getting from this output that's really important? It is the MAC address. Notice that it also gives us the IP address as well, which is really nice. But what I'm looking for here is that MAC address, because that MAC address is really important for our layer 2 communication within our local area network, whether it's between two devices that need to communicate with each other, like two PCs, or whether it's the PC and the router, which is its default gateway. Those MAC addresses are really, really, really important. Also, when you're troubleshooting layer 2 connectivity, if you're looking at the MAC address table and you want to know if the default gateway's MAC address is being learned by the switch, you need to know where to look for this particular MAC address on the interface. So show interfaces. Now, do SVIs receive a MAC address? Yes, they do. So if we look at show interfaces VLAN 10, we can see that the MAC address that was generated for this particular interface is 2893.fe3a.e345. So even the SVIs receive a MAC address.